Welcome back, 1570 AM WNST. My next guest is Nestor J. Apparis here on 1570 AM WNST. Nestor, welcome in.
Dennis, no football this weekend, right? No, did they used to play the Pro Bowl the week after the Super Bowl, or am I nuts? Did they
You know,
always play it before,
you
like
know,
100 years ago?
it's such an insignificant game. I never paid attention, to be frank with you. I mean, I used to love the Superstars. Remember that competition, Superstars on ABC Sports, and I wish they would do that instead of the Pro Bowl. At least, get the athletes out there to lift weights, to run, to jump, whatever, do some skills competition. But to me, the Pro Bowl is so played out. I can't tell you the last time I watched one.
The skills competition. It's funny you'd bring that up, like that. I think Kyle Bowler did it, like in that era, like 15 years ago. They were still doing it, but there was something about the Pro Bowl, and like I don't want to get too much into this because we
Right.
we make an annual tradition of making fun of it on Sunday night when we land at the Super Bowl. But there's something about like the late 1970s where like there were girls with pom poms in Hawaii, and everybody had a blue jersey or a red jersey, and Dan Marino's there. And I don't know. When I was 12, it felt like a good idea. 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas, it felt like the craziest thing
Sure.
I've ever heard of.
Sure.
And they play flag football. So the fact that there's no football this week means that I'm even more, I guess, resigned to this offseason and to what changes are going to happen around the league. I mean, I think first things first. I mean, Aaron Rodgers and his girlfriend broke up, right? So he's not going to Denver, right? So we have Denver, Green Bay, Minnesota to some degree, Seattle, Pittsburgh, Houston, all the Indianapolis, all these places are looking for Aaron Rodgers or looking for the bigger, better deal or looking for Russell Wilson. And then there's the draft itself as to, who's going to be the next Mitch Trubisky, or whatever along the way. And I guess over the next, I usually say 90 days, but it feels a lot closer when like the end of February is next week and combine starting and owners meetings are a month away now. The Super Bowl ends so late that I feel like probably DeCosta and Harbaugh and those guys are like, oh my God, the season's been over forever. And the teams that didn't make the playoffs have gotten a lot of work done that, I don't want to say that the teams that play, that Cincinnati and the Rams don't get done, although it looked like Matt Stafford didn't get a whole lot done on Tuesday or Wednesday, right? Looked like he had a little bit too much tequila.
Well, good for him, but a lot of pent up losses, I guess. So more power to him to celebrate. But even right here in Baltimore, we have some contrast. Lamar Jackson is doing exactly what he said he would do, which is to work out right after the Super Bowl. He's throwing passes to James Prochet and Rashad Bateman. And then you have Hollywood Brown, who has taken the Ravens down from his social media presence. He's playing games. He's unhappy, and
He's a video gamer, right? Wasn't that
the video gamer? So to me, his act is getting old. It's starting to become like his cousin Antonio Brown. So if he's going to be unhappy making $13 million a year in Baltimore, I would give him his wish. I would trade him, and I would absolutely bring somebody else that's probably better. And I'm thinking of a Juju Smith-Schuster. You can probably get him for less money, and he'll be very happy to come to Baltimore. So to me, it's a good thing I'm not a general manager of a football team, Nestor, because I would have a different approach with these young men.
Well, I think there was, McVay this week was talking about walking away from the game, right? Like, so I think it's a long season. I think it's a lot harder than people think it is, right? Just the immersion part of staying healthy, staying mentally sharp, physically sharp, all of that as a player. I think even the coaches and the scouts, it is 365. It never ends. And they get paid handsomely for it. Now, I have no problem with that. But to your point, if you're going to make $13 million in bitch, most of us will take that gig. That's a tough spot to be in 2022.
Look, I'd rather make $13 million and be unhappy than make $5 million and be happy, right? So to me, call me crazy, but it comes down to dollars. And just shut your mouth, get out there, play ball, play your ass off, right? Why don't you get another great season under your belt? So that way, if you want to go to a pass happy team at the end of the season, you put yourself in that position versus being a disgruntled prima donna, me first type of a player, Ness.
Well, every Jalen Ramsey and every Odell Beckham Jr. has, from the media standpoint, from my radio show to your radio show to your dealership to what's said on Barstool to what's said on social media, for better or worse, those kinds of players have never been my kind of player. The me, I, all of that. And you can talk about the star players we've had here with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Terrell Suggs and where they are. And Ed Reed played the I'm not coming to play game. He did it on social media all the time. So if you're upset at Antonio Brown, he's just taking a page from the Ed Reed book, and the negotiation of whoever their agent is, whatever Jerry Maguire's telling them to do, that's what Rod Tidwell's going to do. And all that being said, Odell Beckham and Jalen Ramsey, the ultimate me first guys, they got rings the other day. So you say you can't win in that environment. Wide receivers have been winning rings. I mean, being self-centered and egotistical and, all those things they call Billick back in the day. They've been doing that forever. So the players and the wide receivers, that's part of Eric's job. That's part of John's job that you and I probably wouldn't do well with.
No.
Quite frankly, you don't want to be here, get out, right?
Yeah, I'd figure it out. I'd figure out a different approach, but you make good points and you make great sense in what you're saying. But again, a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. At this stage of his career looks to me very much like he's a 1-year rental at best. Rumors are he's going to sign with the Chiefs at some point in the offseason. So again, the guy just won a ring with the Rams, but he's going to go to where he thinks there's a better fit for him, a better quarterback, a better situation.
Well, let's go over the last 20 years of guys that have done that. Every Darrelle Revis has done that, right?
Sure.
I mean, Eli Manning did that coming into the league, right? So this isn't picking a team is not, not unusual. Being on the team and being completely disruptive is something that Beckham did with the Giants. It's something that he did in Cleveland. It's something that Antonio Brown did everywhere he ever went. And to your point, this kid is his cousin and they hang out, and they were trying to bring him in to be disruptive here. This team didn't need any more disruptions. They were 8-3 and they didn't make the playoffs, and they're on a 6-game losing streak that they have to pound sand on the next 6 months. They didn't need any more disruptions than disruptions they had around here.
Now, I don't know how you felt about Terrell Owens, because he was also that type of player. I know he was coming to Baltimore, then he wasn't coming to Baltimore. And I was actually very happy they didn't sign him, because he was just such a prima donna, such an idiot. And I believe Kyle Bowler was a quarterback at the time. I thought that was a recipe for disaster had he come to the Ravens.
Well, it's interesting you'd say that, because one of the conversations I had with Coach Billick that I never forget was that day. Because if I was on the phone with Brian for 20 minutes that day, and he was explaining to me how Owings Mills, that they had leadership, they had Ray, they had Ed, they were going to cushion him. What was Brian's word? Absorb.
Absorb him, right? Absorb a prick.
Like a shock absorber, for your car.
That's exactly how I want to live my life, by absorbing idiots in my culture.
Yeah, well, in the place you work, right? In the most important place you are,
I want to tolerate and make special allowances for prima donna, me first idiot, right? That may or may not get me over the hump, who may also potentially disrupt my locker room.
Well, beyond that, he like shat upon Ozzie Newsome. As I remember, that was,
you remember correctly.
That was the end, and it's kind of like Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick might have had a gig here, and Bisciotti was thinking it through, and Harbaugh's thinking, I need a quarterback, and kid played for my brother. There are actually black people in our city, so we might be okay with that, and our fans might be okay. Then the pig socks came out, and the stuff from his girlfriend in Atlanta and whatever, and then the Ravens were done. So there's a point where I can come work for your dealership until I insult your kids or insult the general manager, or you can't do that. So to me, the Ozzie Newsome thing was the end of that was him letting everybody know he didn't want to come. When you're giving ish to Ozzie Newsome, who's a Hall of Famer, you didn't really want to be here. And I think at that point, that's when they said, okay, remember the league got involved in draft picks and all compensation. That. It was, and the fact that he almost came here. I mean, literally, and that he went to the Super Bowl with that team up there, right? That team went to the Super Bowl, that Eagles team, and lost. Thank
goodness they lost. That was the best thing could have ever happened to them, especially going in with that idiot. And then, of course, he hung out Donovan McNabb to dry, blame him for losing the Super Bowl, because that's the kind of guy he is. When he was in Dallas, they had the last game of the season. They were flying up to Philly, and he held up the team playing by 2 hours. And I forget who the coach was, but he was a weak coach, because it was Parcells that left his ass home. But they went to Philadelphia and lost and they waited 2 hours for him to get on the plane. He was just such an idiot. And these are just the stories that we know about Nestor.
Well, and then the Hall of Fame, just with him, push-ups in the driveway. But you're talking about Terrell Owens, right? So you're just using that as an example. He's the best wide receiver going, obviously, at that point. Odell Beckham doesn't smell like that to me. Maybe he smelled that way 2 years ago when Cleveland took him on, and you thought we can absorb him, right? But the absorption part of all of this is, Russell Wilson was walking around past my desk on Friday, place to place, city to city, selling himself out. His girlfriend wasn't there, or singing anyway. But these quarterbacks and where the Steelers are, and what do you think the Steelers are going to do?
I saw someplace Jameis Winston mocked to him, and I was hoping that he goes to the Steelers versus somebody like a Russell Wilson, type of a player, or Aaron Rodgers. That would be disastrous for the Ravens. But it is what it is. But just the final comment on Owens. Anytime you have to talk about a person in any profession, and you put in there somewhere "and but," right? The two words "and but." He's a great player, and but. That to me is a big red flag. And my organization, there's no tolerance for someone like that. Our culture will not absorb a player like that or a person like that. It doesn't work out. It always says an unhappy ending, Nestor.
I ran a business for a long time and had a lot of male employees and a lot of testosterone floating around and a lot of I'm the greatest. And quite frankly, on my team, a lot of I can do sports talk better than you. A lot of that Ozzie. And I'm like, here's the chair. Have a seat.
Have at it.
But then, as you well know, you've been a part of my station for a lot. You know more about my company than I know about yours. Self-centeredness and narcissism, it comes at an incredible cost, even years down the line years down the line, Brian Billick would say, that probably wasn't a great career move for me. The whole Terrell Owens mess and everything that happened around here probably wasn't good for Brian's career. And I don't know that anybody makes a career. And McVay may speak differently to this. And maybe McVay really will speak well of Odell Beckham's time there and the 10 weeks he spent there or whatever, right? That it will be okay in the end. But I think most leaders would say in the end, we remember the mistakes, the big mistakes. We remember when we brought Terrell Owens into our program and what it did to our place. Because you've had a few at Coons and probably in previous stops because you're old enough, and I'm old enough now that I've had some Terrell Owens. I've had some Rod Tidwells. And it is, I am not a manager of people as I have famously said. I have zero tolerance for that. None. Well, as a fan, as a media member, as a business owner, as a friend, as a voter, I don't have any tolerance for that sort of behavior.
To think that a locker room, even with Hall of Fame players like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, can contain a malcontent, a miscreant, it's really a misnomer. That just doesn't happen, Nestor. These are grown men with a lot of money, right? So they can't be with them 24 hours a day. Chris McAllister, as great as a player he was, particularly early on in his career,
he was not good for Brian Billick.
He was a hot mess, and Brian put up with him. Harbaugh did not. When he and Harbaugh clashed.
Harbaugh has a similar tone on this to you and I. We're not having Bernard Pollard around here.
No.
And Bernard Pollard can go out on social media and, like my ex-employees, say whatever you want to say. I'm just glad you're not here. I'm just glad you don't have my badge on anymore. And look at what happened in the media this week with Kyler Murray, right? He takes on a hit from Chris Mortensen of all people. And I don't know what that means or whether he's trying to get out or they're trying to get him out. But I smell PR in the same way that when Russell Wilson's walking around, you're looking at Russ and saying, let's get Russ into Pittsburgh. I don't need Jameis Winston or Russ. Give me Russ.
Right.
Oh, Winston's going to cost $2.4 million and Russ is going to cost $38 million. Oh, okay. Well, that's different. But you talk about leaders of men and how Russell Wilson is perceived. After, being in a locker room with Earl Thomas, we've had a little experience with that around here, and Marshawn Lynch, amongst others, Russell Wilson would be considered wherever he goes. I would think you can win. If the Steelers get Russell Wilson and replace Roethlisberger's salary with him and figure it all out, and Russell Wilson comes in here twice next year with that defense and those players, if they sign Russell Wilson, I think they're a contender. If they don't, I don't think they are. And I think the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers winds up in a Steelers jersey, that's good for the Steelers. And that's for those players. And Aaron Rodgers is his own handful, dude. You know what I mean? He has his own diva card in the way that probably Kyler Murray has his own diva card, probably in the same way that Russell Wilson makes some special rules with Sierra, right? But you put up with that. But what you don't want is having who was the kid that Matt Leinart in the and Kyle Bowler in the Playboy Mansion hot tub in the middle of minicamp. You don't really want that either, though. I don't. What did Parcells say? Something about celebrity quarterbacks?
Oh man, they couldn't handle Parcells today, and vice versa, right? The tuna wouldn't put up with none of this nonsense.
Did he have a diva quarterback quote? I'm gonna.
I don't recall what it was, but Parcells had a lot of quotes. The tuna, right? He was very colorful, but he was a hell of a coach. He was also no nonsense.
If my quarterback runs, I'll shoot him. That's one of his quotes.
Right? Look, he's got a lot of pelts on his wall, right? He won a couple of Super Bowls with physical, tough, hard-nosed teams, very efficient teams that never beat themselves. Well coached, Hall of Fame coach. What more can you say about the guy?
God, I could sit here and read Parcells quotes to you all day.
Parcells was amazing.
Laugh, right?
He was amazing.
There are two things in New York: euphoria and disaster.
That's a very accurate statement. I think all these quarterbacks, and they're just trying to get paid. Kyler Murray, right? He's 3 years in. He's got the fourth year of his contract. He wants to get paid. It's as simple as that. And he doesn't care whether it's Arizona or Indianapolis. He just doesn't care. They just don't care. They're all following the almighty dollar. They're selling out. That's what they're looking for at the end of the day.
Well, and John Harbaugh's got a new deal now too, and there's a lot of pressure around here to win. And I think you smell it from the fan base. I smell it. They had trouble selling tickets last year. They're going to put their tickets out. They have a new president that nobody's familiar with, and most of the familiarity, especially over at the competitor, is, guy lost with the Browns. He's going to be trouble. He's going to. To me, he was handpicked by Dick Cass, and I'm looking forward to shaking his hand and saying, fist bumping him, saying hello, and seeing what he's going to be. Because in this organization, when you bring someone in, you don't think they're going to be the team president for a week or two or three. I think when they sat down and talked to Sashi Brown about this job, they're like, last guy stayed 19 years. How long are you going to hang around? Right. And I know this, Steve Bisciotti will not own the team for the next 19 years. So this team's going to have some transition, and this is the beginning of that. And the beginning of that is when you lose 6 games in a row to end the season, and your defensive coordinator's gone and your team president's gone. You better not start the year 3-5 next year. And there better not be any excuses about why your quarterback can't make it to post, your superstar MVP and all that. He better be standing upright and ready to throw the football in September. And I have no doubt that he will be, because he's been a high achiever in the off. You agree with that with Dennis, right? On Lamar. Lamar works hard in the offseason. When he was making $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, making $20 million this year. I don't know. Money changes a lot of guys. It just changed Hollywood Brown, as you brought out, right? His buddy, he's not even there catching footballs right now as a negotiating ploy. But in regard to Lamar, a lot of pressure on Lamar, a lot of pressure on John, and I'll make sure the pressure stays on him, because I just watched the Cincinnati Bengals almost win the Super Bowl, and we've lost 6 games in a row, and they can't change that till September. Harbaugh's going to hate me this offseason, because all we're going to talk about is they're on a 6-game losing streak, and they have a lot to prove. And that's a lot different than when you lose to Tennessee or lose to, you're 14-2 and you're disappointed and your quarterback's 22. I think this is a different set of circumstances for this franchise than they've had at any other point.
They let up 82 points to the Bengals, Nestor, in 2 games, right? So I'm glad, I'm happy the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. A high tide raises all ships. So the tide in the AFC North has been raised by the Bengals, and the Ravens have to respond. I think it's a great thing for them. I think it's a great thing for the division. I think it's a great thing for the ball club. And Pittsburgh's still Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is still a factor. They really are.
And Cleveland is a factor in that they'll mismanage everything. You know what I mean? Like, they've already mismanaged this far. Hey. They've already had Odell Beckham's got a Super Bowl ring, and it's not with them. He played that game away.
Every division has a clown franchise, right? So the Browns wear the hat, and thank God they're there for the Ravens.
Every division has a clown. I'm going to test that theory, right? Jets, okay.
Yeah.
We have 2, really, the Bengals and the Browns.
We do. We have 2.